Hi everyone. Today I want to show you how you can use Brokk AI to solve a real-world issue in the Blender open source repository. Blender is a tool for modeling and rendering stuff, and the GitLab issue tracker shows a lot of open issues here. If I go to the GitLab page here, then you see we have almost 7K open issues here. And I was looking through the issues and picked one where I think this could be fun to solve, to let Brokk solve this issue here. And it's about a problem with the spin tool. It's imprecise. Yeah, and I thought maybe we can try Brokk to solve this issue here. Here I have already opened and cloned the Blender repository. And if we look here, I can also increase the font size a little bit more like this. Okay, it works better. Then we see we have almost 21,000 files here. Mainly C++, but also Python files are involved here. The first thing I did here is I opened a new session and asked about how can I build this with Ninja, because the default here is Make, but Ninja is more reliable, most of the time it's better, so I wanted to use Ninja. So I asked with Brokk how to build this in general with Linux, and I go deeper here into the conversation, and you see I asked about how to build this with Ninja and how to use specific this folder. And then it responded with the commands needed to do this, and I also wired this command into the settings, because when you open a new repository, Brokk is using a build agent to get all of these commands which are necessary to build the project, to lint the project, to run tests, all of that stuff. For the verification, yeah, it identified Make, but as I said, I want to use Ninja, so I was going to override it with the commands provided here. Okay, and I was able to build the project and to run it locally. And now we can start to fix the issue with Brokk. But let me first introduce what the issue is about. Basically, the spin tool is a tool where you can rotate a vertex around an origin for an angel, including some steps, right? And the problem is here that the implementation is, at least that's the assumption and the issue, that the implementation is a little bit clunky, because as you can read here, it seems to calculate one segment of this arc, and then it's repeating it, the displacement, by the number of steps, so to say. And the problem is, if you calculate one segment, then you have rounding errors, and then if you cumulate this, at the end you have some imprecise end results, so to say, and this is what the problem here is about. And yeah, I can also go to Blender and show you the problem live before we start fixing it. And to do, I can go to the terminal here. I have already built the project, so I can go and start it with, let me jump to the build directory. So it's build Blender, and Blender is the name, I think. Let's check. I need to go into the binary directory and then Blender. Okay, so build Blender, binary Blender, that's the executable built by Ninja. Okay, and now here you see it's Blender, the alpha version 5.10. Let me quickly show the problem here. So you see we have here one cube, and let me go to the object mode that we can manipulate individual vertices like this. Okay, and let me just remove some of these vertices. I can remove this one here, vertex. Okay, I can also remove these two vertices here like this, remove. Okay, and now I'm left with this vertex here and the 4 here on the floor. And to demonstrate this bug, let me think. Yeah, I think we can remove this one here. Okay, and now that's okay to show you the bug. Okay, so what I'm now do is I'm moving this a little bit more up. You see, I want the lower side here is directly on the plane, on the origin. So what I can do is I grab all of the vertices here, go to the move tool, and here you see I move it up. And if I press Control, it's snappy. Okay, and now it's snapped. And now if we look, it's directly on this plane here. Okay, and now I want to look from the set direction like this. Okay, nice. And I also want to move this point here, the bottom left, to the origin. So I can move it here, click Control again to snap it to the grid, and I move it like this, okay? And now let's select this vertex. Now I centered it to the screen. Okay, and now I can show you the bug. I select the right bottom vertex like this, and then I activate the spin tool. And now I can spin this vertex around the origin here. This is the spin tool, okay? And now I can click here, and now I can spin it around the origin. Let's spin it by 90 degrees, okay, like this. And I zoom in. There is also a vertex behind, right? Because we did not drop it. So we have this vertex here, which is created by the spin tool, and one behind. It's just to show you that there are differences in the positioning when I have multiple steps involved here. Okay, that means if I go now to the settings, I can press F9 to bring up the settings here. And now if you see now we have 12 steps, okay? But if we go and increase this, you see no difference here. You need to zoom in to recognize this, okay? So let me close this and zoom in more to that vertex here. I zoom in very near like this, okay? And then I open again the tool, the spin tool here. And now if I go here and remove the steps, then you see it starts jumping around. Let me zoom more in that you can recognize a little bit more. Here I think it's very good to see. And if I open the settings again, we are around 900 steps, then you see it's very, there is a difference in the position here. And if I move around the steps, then you see it's jumping. Yeah, and this is because these are accumulated rounding errors. At least that's the assumption, and that this is the bug, right? Because normally the two vertices needs to be on the same position or behind, right? From this perspective, from if we're looking into the set direction here, but you see they are not over each other, so to say. That's the bug. Okay, so let me zoom out again. Yeah, so now I'm going to save this for future reference to verify whether it's working after Brokk tries to solve or fix that bug. Now I'm back in Brokk, and now we can work on the issue. So I need to copy the issue text manually to the context window here. We have built-in GitHub connection to grab all of the issues, grab the pull request and so on. But Blender, as I said, lives in GitLab, and therefore we need to do a little bit manually work here. So I switch over to the issue in the browser and just go and copy the text here, the description of the issue with Control-C. And I think I copy it in an editor window first, like this, and then we can also add the issue header, the headline here. Okay, and this is the description here. I copy everything, go back to Brokk and paste it into the context area panel here at the bottom. There's a context menu entry paste text. And then it's inserted. You see the badge, you see how much token it requires, 271. And if I click on it, I can preview the text here and can read the actual issue. Okay, let's close the preview. And if I want, and it's helpful, I can also copy the image, go to Brokk, and also paste the image here, verify, it's correct. Okay, and now we have both information here in the context window, and we can then prompt something like, I want to solve this issue. Okay, and now we can let Brokk start working in Lutz mode on that issue. We can also choose a planning model here, can configure other models. I go with GPT-5 here with the priority queue enabled, so it's a little bit faster. And I click Lutz to start the agent mode. And first it starts to pruning the workspace and to try to find the relevant context. That's the first thing it's doing, and then it goes and do a little bit of research, and then it comes back with a task list. So let's wait. Okay, now it's finished, and if we scroll up, we see what GPT has done. it worked on the workspace which is needed to start coding on solving the issue. Right, you see here, for example, we have the BMO spin exec source function included in the context. If I click here, I can see, okay, this is now part of the context and needs to be modified. So you see, it's not including necessarily the whole file. It can also reference functions, methods, classes, and so on, so that the context itself is not too huge when modifying and manipulating stuff. Okay, so now we can scroll down. Here you see all of the tool calls made during the thinking process here, and at the bottom you see the explanation, what needs to be done to fix the issue, and the created task list. Let's quickly go over it. Let's increase the font size a little bit for better readability. Let's quickly review the explanation. Then, yeah, it says the problem is the per step rotate and the accumulation through the steps, through the whole angle. And the high-level fix is, instead of using steps and accumulate it together, use an absolute angle and absolute rotation, always starting from the base. Exactly. And it says also the changes are localized to this function here, or to this function, a BMO spin exec. Public API is untouched, which is great. And yeah, it also says tests can be added via Python. And as you see here, it created a task list with 7 tasks. And we can go now, click on this button to play all tasks. But before doing this, I want to do a quick review and combine similar tasks so that one agent is working on that. That's always a good idea to save time. If the tasks are not too big, then I can combine some of them. I do not want to go into details because this is very mathematical. I just want to say that in the first step, it wants to refactor how the vertices are stored. In the second task, it wants to introduce some helpers, and with task 3 and 4, it wants to apply these absolute positioning logic. And task 5 is about the double precision. It wants to change the data types from float to double to be more precise in rounding errors. And task 6 is about a regression test, and 7 about updating some comments and doc strings. Okay, so I think because it's scoped to one function and one file, it's okay to combine tasks 1 to 5 in this case. So I can go to the task list. It's here at the bottom, and I can go and modify the tasks here. So it's reflecting the task which the LLM was suggesting to us. And now I can go here and say, okay, I want to combine 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Mouse click and say combine. Now this is combined to one task. Okay, and the last 2 tasks can also be combined because about the regression test and about the comments. So I go here and say combine. So at the end, I'm left here with 2 tasks, which I want now to execute. I can also choose a model here. I keep GPT-5 here. I can also switch to another model if I want. Exactly. And then I click simply on run the architect on all tasks here with this button. Okay, and then it's starting to working on the first task here. So let's wait for it. Both tasks are finished now. And it executed the test here at the end to verify that the regression test is green. And now you can see here on the right side the activities for both tasks here, and you can collapse here and expand one task and see details about finding the right context and about the file modifications and so on. And you can, for example, go here and double click on it to see the diff, the changes which are applied. You can also go to the changes tab here and also see an overview of all changes with a side-by-side view, or you can also go to this unified diff if you prefer that. Okay, so let's now check whether the application works like expected now and whether it's fixed. So I can go back to the terminal session here and open Blender. Let's go back to the Blender directory and let's start Blender. Okay, I load the file. We have saved the last time. Open this one. Okay, and now I try exactly the same. I select the vertex here and move this 90 degrees. Let's zoom in very near to the last point here. Okay, and let's open the spin properties here. And now I would expect when I change the steps, then the vertex should not move around. Okay, and it seems to work, right? I go to 1000 steps, that's the highest value, and yeah, it seems to work. It's not jumping around like before. 500, yeah. Also, if I use the mouse to change that value, it's not moving at all. So it seems the issue is fixed. Very nice. That's it for today's session. I hope you enjoyed watching Brokk AI in action, fixing a real Blender bug from start to finish. If you want to try it out yourself, check out Brokk.ai. It's free to start. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive on our channel. See you soon.